apart and they spring back, and there's the kind you push together and they bounce back. And there's the kind of spring that is time to get your 4x4 side-by-side tuned up for the year. Just call Hendo's and Joe will spring into action. Heck, he'll even come and get it. Tune it up, fix it up, even rev it up. 4x4 spring tune-ups at Hendo's Service Center on Sheridan's Heartland Drive.
With summer kicking into full swing, the Sheridan Troopers look to continue defending their home turf and have their next home games this Saturday, June 18th. Come out to Thorn Rider Stadium as the Troopers take on Cody. The doubleheader starts at 1 with the second game around 3:30. If you can't make it out to the field, you can watch the live video web stream on SheridanMedia.com or listen to the games on air on 1410, 106.9 FM, KWYO. Trooper Baseball is being presented in part by True Built Builders, Redinger Technologies, Auto Connections, and Sunlight Federal Credit Union.
From Sheridan Media News, it's time for Open Line Friday. Your chance to join the conversation and talk about what you want to talk about. Call the Jackson Electric Open Line at 672-KROE. That's 672-5763. Now, your hosts on the Jackson Electric Open Lines, Steve Sisson and Floyd Whiting.
Good morning and welcome to the Jackson Electric Open Lines. I'm Floyd Whiting and I'm here with my friends Steve Sisson and Trevor Jackson. The three of us are back together.
Yeah, three amigos.
The three amigos. We're back. And we are your open line guys. Go ahead and give us a ring, 674-4443 or 672-5763. I just got back from my vacation about a week ago. I got through Yellowstone just before the tragedy. I would say about a day and a half before the tragedy. We all know that Yellowstone is flooding. As of right now, all the park entrances are still closed, but Teton National Park is open.
Right.
Our hearts go out to those individuals who were affected by that. I've seen some pretty heartbreaking videos.
Yes.
Up online. They're getting a lot of footage of homes going into the river, which, I mean, could you imagine standing on the...
Well, I was wondering, if you owned property on like the edge of the river and it swells up like that and washes the house and everything away, what do you have? You don't even have the land anymore.
No, everything's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. I mean, where am I going to rebuild the house? The land is now part of the river.
Yeah. Obviously it'll shrink back down, but still, yeah, that's a rough situation.
Those poor folks up there. And the economic impact on the state of Wyoming itself is going to be felt probably for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So this is a tragedy for all of us up here. Who knows how much money that's going to cost to get all of those roads rebuilt. And how are they going to do it? How long is it going to take? Not to mention the costs. Boy, I hope those folks up there got flood insurance and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To help out with that. All right, let's go to the poll question.
Question was, what should be done about the way property taxes are calculated? And we came up with a few options. I'm sure there are others than these, but this is kind of what we managed to come up with after the show last week. I will go from the least to the most popular answer here out of the options we had.
Okay.
So starting at the bottom, the least popular option was to offset property taxes with an increase in sales tax. Kind of knew that wasn't going to be one that people would really go for. You don't want to see your sales taxes go up. Only 5% said that would be the way to go. Another similar one was also near the bottom of the list, offset property taxes with an income tax.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't want to see an income tax here, so only 6% said that was a good idea. Up next was across-the-board cuts. Just cut everything. That way, you're going to cut the programs, you're going to cut the taxes, just scale everything back. That one was the second most popular response with 31%. And then the most popular response, based on the options we had, with 59% of the people supporting it, was to base the taxes on the price at the time of sale. And that's something that we've heard, like a caller even was mentioning that, I haven't done any improvements to my house, anything like that. Why is it worth more now than it was yesterday?
Yeah, and that is the old supply and demand. Because you own land, and land increases in value based on the popularity. Based on where it's at in the market.
Yeah, I guess you could kind of think of it as like if you buy some sort of a rare item, at whatever price you buy it for, sometime down the road you will probably be able to sell it for more than you paid for it. But when is that thing actually considered to be worth that amount? Is it worth that amount right now as you're holding on to it? Or is it worth that amount only when you sell it for that amount?
That's a good question. And when it comes to land, everything can fluctuate.
Yes.
Just like any other market, really.
Yeah. Areas, neighborhoods can increase and decrease in value depending on what's going on in that area.
And if you would like to know, head on over to SheridanCounty.com. They actually have the formula that can help you figure out what your property taxes are going to be based upon the assessment that has been done to your property, which there's a formula behind that as well. A lot of this is just formula based. It's not based on anyone's opinion of the way things are going. All right, we got a caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on the Jackson Electric open lines.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen. Listen, I'd like to change topic a little briefly. Here on the 15th of this week, there was a meeting hosted out at the college. It was regarding e-enterprise. And here's what I'd like to say. There was an editorial in the Wall Street Journal on the 13th that basically was titled, "Who Pays for Crypto's Collapse?" Okay? Well, in the article or in the editorial, the gentleman reflects that as of June of this year, there's been a $1.5 trillion loss in crypto trade. 46,000 people have reported to the FTC losing $1 billion in crypto scams. Kim Kardashian is being sued for promoting crypto. But here in Sheridan on the 15th, we hosted the Wyoming crypto legislators, Mr. Western, Mr. Yin, Mr. Rothfuss, trying to promote what was referred to in the paper as e-residency. Now, the paper was aware of this occurring out at the college because they went to the legislative website. But there wasn't any real announcement this was occurring until an article in the paper yesterday. Anyway, this e-residency facilitates crypto scams, okay? Wyoming has said it will pattern itself after the country of Estonia, where you can have an enterprise, that's why it's called e-enterprise, without buildings, which you can't tax, something that doesn't exist, without workers to welcome to Wyoming, just a digital identity in which you can trade crypto. So I'm asking this question. Why, in particular, is Mr. Western, who is running for re-election, why has he doubled down on crypto? My answer, just my answer, is because a politician never admits to a mistake. It's really a case of it ain't dead, it's just tender. Or maybe just because we bought crypto, a nice e-hat, it don't make it pretty. And so what I'm saying here is a little tap dance was done out at the college regarding this hoped-for e-residency promoted by the crypto blockchain people because the governor denied a bill that would have brought crypto token into the office of the treasurer of the state of Wyoming. It was denied. The ball kicked back to the committee. And then we have a huge involvement, University of Wyoming, Blockchain Lab, the foundation there, the investments for the foundation gave Caitlin Long, Avanti Bank, another no building, just kind of hangs out there in the ether like steam, gave her money so she could organize and do everything to get her bank together. It still cannot be acknowledged because it is not acknowledged by the United States government as a legitimate banking concern. So this whole crypto thing is exhausting, but I do want to make a comment. I was able to see, tragically, the house that fell into the Yellowstone River, and I got to thinking that's a perfect montage for what has happened to the taxpayers of residential property in Sheridan County. We're seeing it fall into the river and being carried down. And I kind of myself sort of like this acquisition idea, because why should you pay today for an unrealized capital gain? And if I can add one more little tag on the end of this, the reason all of this happens is because in 1966, Wyoming passed the Administrative Governance Act, which had been passed on the national legislature clear back in 1944. It basically says we're going to offshoot how you chop the cabbage, how you make up the rules and regs to agencies, not legislators. Legislators can pass a bill, but the agencies chop the cabbage. And that's where we are. Department of Revenue Ad Valorem Division makes up fair market appraisal. It makes up sales ratio studies, and it buys a CAMA system. And, I think you had last Friday, Mr. Miller called and said that the company that sells the CAMA system that brings you the computer-assisted mass appraisal has acknowledged in an inflated housing market, you're getting an inflated value to the property. And how true that is to fair market is questionable. So that's about all I had to say, and I want to thank you guys, because sometimes things come up and there really ain't enough time to get something in the paper. But there's always you guys on Friday, and I appreciate it like you can't know. So thank you again.
All right, Vicki, thank you much. So where is all the various cryptos and all that stuff right now, Steve?
It's down. I mean, everything's down.
I mean, I've seen the headlines, but I don't really take an interest in it that much.
I remember looking at a graph. I don't remember exactly. It's down to about where it was 3 or so years ago. Mm-hmm. It went up big time, and now it's back down. I mean, it had this up and down ride. And so it's not as low as it's ever been, but it's pretty low.
Now, how long have you watched this? Have you watched this long enough to be able to say that this is just like any other market? It's going to fluctuate like that at certain time periods? I
think so. I mean, it's still a relatively new thing. It's clearly a lot more volatile than a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it appears to kind of follow the ups and downs of the market in general. Yeah. So I think it's going to probably go up again. I would guess at some point.
Because I mean, I just can't believe that all these rich people would put all this money into something just to have it sink to nothing.
Well, it's a very high risk investment, I think.
It's kind of like Enron. You know what I mean? You remember what happened with Enron?
Right.
You remember what everybody said? Too big to fail. It is. There's too much involved in Enron to just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with crypto is that it's still a relatively new thing, but I think it's becoming a legitimate thing.
I've seen more and more people jump on board with this.
Yeah. I think its future is definitely still undetermined, but like I said, it's a high risk investment. It could just absolutely tank, or it could end up being something worthwhile.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some other subjects that are going on, like Julian Assange. That's right. He's back in the news. This is the Jackson Electric Open Lines on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
Plug into Jackson Electric and feel the power. If it has anything to do with electricity, anything at all, call Jackson Electric. Commercial, residential, agricultural, it makes no difference. Call Jackson Electric. Jackson Electric does high-efficiency LED lighting and fire alarm systems installation, wiring at home, wiring a business, new electrical service, or enlarging existing service. Call Jackson Electric and you'll see the light. 1851 North Main in Sheridan.
You know, it doesn't take years of experience poring over spreadsheets of other people's money to figure out that Wyoming doesn't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem, and that's our money. Additionally, all of that experience is meaningless if your representative doesn't have a genuine conservative perspective and a backbone. I'm Ken Pendergraft. I'm a combat veteran because I chose to be. Married 40 years because I choose to be, and promises are meant to be kept. I'm a preacher because I'm called to be, and I'm a conservative Republican because I value those ideals that made this country great. This message is paid for by the committee to elect Ken Pendergraft to House District 29. I am Ken Pendergraft, and I'm asking for your vote on August 16. I approve this message, and you should too.
Buying an extended vehicle contract from Hammer Chevrolet is always beneficial, especially if you're looking to keep your vehicle for a long time, Troy Baker.
Bob, there are a lot of scams out there when it comes to extended warranties for your vehicle. Come in and sit down and let's put together a well-thought-out extended contract that works for you. Give yourself peace of mind when you're on the road.
An extended contract from Hammer Chevrolet will give you peace of mind when you're on the road this summer. Hammer Chevrolet, 107 East Alger, online, hammerchevy.com.
Now's the time to start those projects you've been dreaming about. Excavation, landscaping, or home improvement. Wagner Ranch Services has the materials. Wagner Ranch Services carries many types of gravel, scoria, topsoil, and landscaping products. Check out Wagner's landscaping display, where you can view a variety of landscaping materials that can be picked up from the yard or delivered. Wagner Ranch Services, 13 Industrial Lane, 307-752-2787, open Monday through Friday from 7 to 5. Remember that kid that kept falling down the well and had to be constantly rescued by their collie dog? Well, if that family had just called 307 Wildcat Well Service, that old well would be a pipe and a pump. 307 Wildcat Well Service is a local company that specializes in locating water, drilling and pumps, residential or ranch, repair or service. So for water wells and all that goes with them, just Google 307 Wildcat Well Service and you too will have cool, clean water. Water.
On this week's episode of the Weekend Sports Wrap Podcast, it's championship season. We recap the Women's College World Series, preview the Men's College World Series, as well as the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final. We also get into a possible relocation for a major MLB team. I give out suggestions for their new team name, such as the Memphis Barbecue Pulled Pork Sandwiches, and instead of pine tar, they use Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. Those genius ideas and more on this week's episode of the Weekend Sports Wrap Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome back to the Jackson Electric Open Lines. I'm Floyd Whiting, and I'm here with my buddy Steve Sisson and Mr. Trevor Jackson. He's over there controlling things in the big room. Now, we've discussed some property tax stuff.
Mm-hmm. One thing we didn't put on there, which is we kind of went with like the more how should they be calculated route.
Right.
But there's the other side of it, like, you know, after you've calculated, what do you do with that? And I think the biggest issue, we all kind of assume that these things are going to go up over time. That's typically what happens with land and property, is it increases in value over time. But I think the biggest issue is if you're seeing like a 30% increase in a single year on your property taxes, I think that's really the hit.
Yeah.
If somehow you could make it so you don't see these massive jumps year over year, because what happens if it sees another 30% next year?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think that's really the problem, is whatever system is done needs to kind of spread it out a little bit so you don't have these massive gut punches to people who don't really have the money, you know, saved up or weren't anticipating things like that.
Well, I mean, I could imagine that there's got to be some sort of appeals process, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
If you disagree with your assessor, no matter where you are, I would imagine that there's an appeals process. It's probably just as costly as doing anything else.
Yeah, maybe just about as painful as just paying the tax.
You got to go get a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, these taxes, the IRS, all of it is convoluted. It's complicated. Every so often, you get a look at you know, tax laws, and holy cow,
yeah,
It's staggering the amount of laws that there are. And it's kind of hard to follow. I need a professional. I need an expert.
Yeah, the average person really can't handle stuff like that on their own.
I mean, and hey, if you think you can and you want to tackle that bear, go for it. But I'm
a lot of us just don't want to deal with it.
It's just tough, man. I mean, that's the first thing I would do is just go get a lawyer who is an expert in that kind of thing. Now, when it comes to the state of Wyoming getting the bills paid, that's the tough part.
Right.
We can sit here and we can say, hey, here's some ways to offset everything. But the fact of the matter is, we'll never see coal the way it was. We'll never see natural gas the way it was. That ship has sailed. And I think one thing that I want people to understand is I love my state dearly. But we have gotten used to not paying certain things. Because the coal, the natural minerals industry, footed the bill for a lot of different things in our state. And now they've packed up shop. Now we can blame whoever we want to blame, but the market's the market. And we need to, right now, I honestly feel that we need to get drilling. We could do that.
Yes.
State of Wyoming could be meeting these needs, and we could be dropping the price of fuel out there. We could be doing that. I don't know who's to blame, whether it's the president, whether it's the oil companies, because I'm hearing both sides.
Yeah, they're kind of pointing the finger at each other right now.
Right now, everyone's pointing at somebody else, going, it's their fault. So that's where the ship the sails lose their wind, my friend, when everyone starts blaming everybody else. Okay, government stops because it's the Republicans' fault, it's the Democrats' fault. And nobody wants to get anything done. Well, right now, it's the oil company's fault. It's the president's fault, and nobody wants to do anything about it. I got an idea. How about everybody just sits down, stops pointing fingers, and solves this problem for the American people? Instead, they want to distract all of us, saying, well, it's that guy's fault. Don't come to my door.
Right. Well, they're not going to let go of their principles is a thing. Like Biden has certain environmental groups that he's beholden to. And he's just not going to approve certain things because that is priority number one for him.
And I want to just interject real quick on that. I believe in the environmental movement. I do. But you and I have had a conversation on here, conversations on here regarding we can't do this overnight.
Right. Well, we've talked about this before where I think it was about 2013 where we stopped having wells that were ready to produce right now. So even if you did approve a bunch of new leases and stuff right now, it's going to be years before we start seeing any meaningful production from them.
Yeah.
So I can see where, tapping into the strategic reserves is the quickest thing you can do, but that's not a long-term solution.
And every time they tap into those reserves, they never actually release enough.
It's a drop in the bucket.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
Here's a couple million barrels. Get out of here. Come on, man. We use how much oil in barrels does the United States use in a day?
I have no idea. It's unfathomable to me. It's
an amazing amount. It's an amazing amount.
And that's another part of the equation is if you can reduce the demand, then the prices will also come down. You've got two things. You can increase supply, you can decrease demand. Both of those are not really all that easy to do, though.
Well, and what are you trying to do? Are you trying to force me to go buy an e-car?
Right.
Because that's not going to work.
Yeah, and those things are expensive. People, you can't spend $50,000 plus. That's like the low end of an EV right now. And, have a $600 whatever, car payment just to save money on gas. It's less expensive still just to pay the gas.
Well, I'll tell you how things change, and that is election years, my friend. We're sitting in one now, and we got another big one coming up in 2 years. So, if we're sick of the system, show them.
You're right.
Show them all we're sick of the system by changing who's sitting in the seats. All of them.
Yeah.
It's literally that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and try to put your party loyalty aside and just look at each individual on their own records and are they getting the job done or not?
Now, that's why I went independent, my friend. Now, being an independent in the state of Wyoming...
That's a little rough.
it puts some hurdles in your way.
It limits your ability to do certain things.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. But I still feel, that it's the best choice for me. And I know some people feel differently. Some people are they carry their party flag all the way to the line. But for me, what's the Constitution say? That's all that matters to me. That's it.
And I think you need to realize that both parties have self-serving agendas.
Lobbyists. We've talked about that in the past.
If you are a Republican, you're going to say the Democrats are the bad guys and vice versa. But you're not. Neither side is real clean.
No, they're both muddy, man.
Yeah,
bad muddy. So but we've tried to do third-party stuff. What was it, Ralph Nader?
Yeah,
boy, he pushed Green Party for how long?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And all he ever did was just ensure that a Democrat would never get elected whenever he ran.
Well, like Ross Perot is probably done the best out of any third-party candidate. And he didn't get a single electoral vote.
No.
So, and that's the best they've ever done.
And everyone, longtime listeners know that I really respect my father's opinion. And my dad, I can remember that year. And my dad was like, this is the guy who would change the way that we get things done. This is the guy.
And that could have very well been.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been Dukakis, too. Who knows? Out there in his tank. All right. Well,
that's a little different conversation, though. But I do think the two-party system works well in presidential elections. I think you need to change the way the primaries are done. You need to do a better job of selecting a good candidate to run on one of those two parties. I think that system has not been working very well for the last several cycles.
I think, it's a lot of people say it's all about who has the money. Who has the money for ads, who has the money to do all the visits.
That certainly is a big factor in it. But it's also just the fact when you have 12, 16 candidates running in the primaries and you're doing a first past the post voting where you just pick one person. Mm-hmm. It weeds out a lot of people that can't. It's like your second choice might be actually the most popular among most people, but one person has a real fanatical fan base of like a third of the party or even 25%.
And that's all they need.
And in a field that wide, that's all you need to start building an insurmountable advantage.
Yeah.
I think you need to do some kind of ranked choice or range voting where you pick. You rank the candidates in order of preference or something along those lines. You rate each one individual on a scale of 1 to 10 is my personal preference because that weeds out tactical voting too.
And see, the hard part is how do you change a system, a two-party system run by two parties?
And it makes the voting process more complicated. Mm-hmm. And we always have issues of trying to have, prove that these elections are fair. And that's just with, pick your favorite person and move on. That's the simplest voting process there is, and we have people complaining about that. So if you try to make it more complicated where you have to rank each candidate individually, it adds more layers of complexity, and I don't know. But I think in a primary system where you're voting among somewhat like-minded individuals, they're all conservatives, they're all liberals, I think you can do, here's my first choice, here's my second choice. And if the first choice is the first choice of a third of the people, but the second choice is the second choice of 50% of the people, the second choice is the one that probably ought to advance into the general election.
Yeah.
And right now, that system can't work. You always take the person with a plurality of support will go through.
And well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, because if you look at those sheer numbers, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. That's all you need.
Yeah. And then you start getting delegates and winner-take-all states, and that puts that person further out in front and makes it much harder for anyone else to catch up.
Yeah, and I think with just about any election system, people can poke holes in it. But I do have to say that, despite what many people have said over the course of the last, 3 years, the United States has actually got one of the most secure election systems that there is in the world.
The fact that it's compartmentalized by counties helps that a lot.
Yes, it does.
Because it's very hard for any widespread fraud to take place. You may have a county here and there that's got issues, but it's not typically enough to make any meaningful difference in the overall outcome.
Yeah. And offline, I have spoke to an election judge and just trying to get a feel for, how's this really run down? And the way that she described everything to me, it would be almost a miracle to cheat.
It would be very, very difficult.
I mean, you've got each other looking over each other's shoulders all day long.
And every county has its own ballots, its own systems in place. They're all basically independent. And so, yeah, trying to do any kind of massive phony ballot or, machine rigging and stuff like that would be extremely difficult to do.
Oh, yeah. And then you've got all the investigations that go on afterwards. If anybody says anything about it, oh, this one was this one was faked. Boom.
Yeah.
Then the investigation teams come in, and they usually get it found.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can find instances of election fraud throughout the United States, but they're usually very small pockets.
Yeah, there's tabulation errors. There are always issues, but it's never been anything on a large scale.
No, and I don't think we'll ever get to that point. And if we do, boy, once that system's broke, the whole system comes down.
That's one reason why I think a nationwide popular vote is not a good idea.
No, I don't think it is either. All right, I got to take another quick commercial break. This is the Jackson Electric Open Lines on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
From the simplest to the most complex electrical applications, Jackson Electric has the knowledge, experience, and reputation to meet and exceed any electrical need or equipment. Jackson Electric expertise even includes phone systems, data systems, LED lighting systems, fire alarm systems, and irrigation systems, residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural. If it has anything to do with electricity, anything at all, Jackson Electric does it. 1851 North Main in Sheridan.
What is your business worth? Have you considered buying or selling a business? Our certified valuation professionals at Harker Mellinger can help you determine the proper values in gifting, estate planning, and the purchase or sale of your business. This is Alicia Cox. Harker Mellinger has been providing professional valuation services for Sheridan area businesses since 1995. Schedule an appointment today to discuss how a business valuation can work for you. Harker Mellinger, 672-0785.
The owners and staff at Kane's Funeral Home would like to thank the families of Sheridan and Johnson counties for choosing Kane's and allowing them to serve you during these hard times. Kane Funeral Home makes it their mission to take the stress and uncertainty out of ceremonial services. They own and operate the only crematory in Sheridan County, so your loved one is always in their care. Kane's Funeral Home. Call 673-5837 or visit them online at canefuneral.com.
The rodeo is a part of who we are. It's our history, our identity. But boy, this is not your granddaddy's rodeo anymore. The YO is bigger, better, and bolder. Larger purses, tougher competition, and a whole lot of family fun. Come for a week of bright lights, high stakes, and a warm welcome unlike anywhere else in the world. You gotta be here to feel it. Get your tickets at SheridanYoRodeo.com.
Please join us on Saturday, June 19th for the Bighorn Volunteer Fire Department's annual Pancake Breakfast. It will be from 7 to 10 a.m. at the fire station in beautiful downtown Bighorn. There is no charge, as this is our way of saying thank you for all the community support we receive. There will be a raffle for some great prizes, including an ATV. It's the Bighorn Volunteer Fire Department's annual Pancake Breakfast, Saturday, June 19th from 7 to 10 a.m. at the fire station in Bighorn. See you there.
Howdy, I'm Brandon Masters, a deputy of the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office. I'm running for sheriff. I have 15 years of Wyoming law enforcement experience. I believe community collaboration together with proactive law enforcement approach will lead to effective law enforcement in the community. When you vote for Brandon Masters, you vote for a leader who stands with the principles of grit. I humbly request your vote for sheriff on August 16th. I want to thank the citizens of Sheridan County for supporting the Sheriff's Office. For more information, find me on Facebook or visit my website, BrandonMastersForSheriff.com, paid for by Brandon Masters for Sheriff.
Good morning and welcome back to the Jackson Electric Open Lines. I'm Floyd Whiting here with my friends Steve Sisson, Trevor Jackson. We're your open line guys. Give us a ring, 674-4443 or 672-5763. Now, we got a caller right outside of the gate. Go ahead, caller. You're on the Jackson Electric Open Line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was watching I call it the Democrat-controlled media this morning, and they said that the prices of homes are going to go down So the people that are paying these high taxes on their homes, theoretically, the taxes on their home should go down, but just watch, it won't. I don't think I've ever seen that happen in my lifetime. And one reason house prices are going to go down is because interest rates, since Biden took office, have doubled, more than doubled even maybe. And so that's going to have a influence on how many people buy houses. And so, you know, there's no easy answer to this. I happen to know a rhino, self-confessed rhino, and I won't mention his name because he told me that in confidence, but he's in the state legislature. And he said that basically none of the legislators will cut spending. He said it doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats, they want to keep on with the spending. And they need money to spend, so that's one reason why they want to raise our taxes. And of course, like you guys said, we don't have hardly any money coming in now from coal and oil, so they got to find money somewhere to spend. And the property owners are always the ones that catch it in the neck the worst. And I'm kind of worried about things. I think we're right on the verge of what I call the Great Democrat Depression. You talk to people, they don't have any idea what the Depression back in the 30s was all about. And of course, that started when people were buying and selling so much stock that it became overpriced. And some big rich stockholder saw what was going on, so he sold all his stock, and that just worked like dominoes. And next thing you knew, you woke up in the morning and your stock was worthless or worth little. But now I think, if this high-priced gasoline, which people have figured out is not good, and high taxes and spending, and I'm not against giving money to help Ukraine because I'd rather fight the Russians over there than here. But it's crazy what's going on, and it just has me worried, and I'm not sure what to do about it. I've told people to buy dry beans because they'll last for years and store them away. And the banks, what if the banks close like they did during the Depression? My grandfather had his money in a bank in Claremont, and during the Depression, I think, and it closed and stole all his money, and he had a heck of a time getting by. Luckily, he had a homestead, and he could go out and poach a deer for something to eat, but I don't know. I guess I just don't have... I'm not very optimistic, I'll just say that. Well, by the way, I didn't ever... Vicky's right, I never did trust these Bitcoin things anyway. I want money I can hold in my hand.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, an entire generation of millennials is waiting for that housing bubble to burst.
Yeah.
Rubbing their hands together, just watching those prices continue to rise until eventually...
Eventually they'll just get it for free.
It'll pop.
Right. I think,
Everybody gets free college. Everybody gets a free house. Everything's free.
And then it's all worthless at the same time.
Yeah. Don't go get a job or a career.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's give it, 20, 30 years, I think we'll be looking at a different landscape across the United States.
Yeah.
I do acknowledge that this is a lot of this is generational.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know, the younger generation sees certain things that they want changed, and they feel that the boomer generation over top of them is preventing those changes from occurring.
And there's some data that supports their mindset. I saw something the other day where baby boomers, when they were in their 20s, controlled about 20% of the wealth.
Yeah.
And millennials, it's less than 5%.
Yeah.
So
and there's a lot more of them.
Yes. And then Generation X, which I'm a part of, we actually saw some pretty good increases in our wealth.
God, the 90s were good. Brother.
Yeah. And the pandemic actually helped us because we were kind of in that right age where you're not just starting out. You probably own a house and a few other things that you're kind of settled in by now. You're not trying to get into that rat race. So we kind of were the last generation that is going to see things almost automatically become better than the generation before. Millennials are the first ones that are kind of looking at this with much less rose-tinted glasses.
And I know it's really difficult to wrap your head around, but folks, the numbers are really tough to argue against when it comes to where's the wealth of the nation, where's the control, when it comes to minimum wage going up, as opposed to the cost of living increases that these kids have had to face coming out of college, going into college, things like that. And I know we all want to take that stance, you know, where it's like, they're just lazy. But the fact of the matter is, the world has changed. What worked in your generation's time does not work in theirs. So things are changing as we go, believe it or not. But from what I can tell, and I'm not a millennial, I'm an Xer, just like you. I was at the tail end of that. I was there during the good times. But,
That's right.
But the fact of the matter is, something is going to have to give. Whether generations before the millennials agree with that, I'm sorry, but eventually the time will come where that doesn't matter.
Well, I think you have to look at it. There is a reason why millennials and younger think of socialism a lot more positively than people of Generation X and older.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the situation they're in, it kind of starts to look appealing. And part of our job is to say, okay, no, this is not the answer.
Well, the thing of it is, and we've talked about this before on the show, you can't sit there and look at a millennial and or younger and just tell them you're wrong.
Right.
You're wrong. That's it. You're wrong. Okay, well, now what do I do? Nothing. You're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the system that you are handing over to me no longer works. Nothing. You're wrong. What if somebody did that to you? What if someone sat there when you were a kid and told you that exact same thing? You're wrong. These cars, they don't work. They're stupid. The wagon is the only way to get around.
I don't tell them they're wrong.
He just tells them.
Put my hand up and say, "Don't talk."
Why? You don't want to hear it?
I don't want to hear whining.
Yeah.
I think but see, there it is. There's the generational difference.
Mm-hmm.
If I bring up a problem that I'm facing, and you're not facing it, I'm whining.
Yeah, there is a legitimate thing.
Now, that not in every case.
That's true, yeah. But there is a legitimate thing that millennials and younger are saying, hey, there is some serious problem with this capitalist system we're under right now. And if X and older doesn't want to hear it, then you're going to get the blowback, which is going to be more trends towards socialism.
Absolutely. They're going to go off and do what they think they need to do.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'm not defending socialism. I know the system doesn't work.
Right.
But here's the deal. They don't.
Mm-hmm. And we're not doing a good job of showing, hey, we're willing to admit that we've got some issues with our current system that we can adjust.
No, because you'd rather sit on your porch and scream about how nobody knows what they're doing.
And it worked fine for me. It worked fine.
Yeah. And that's because when you bought a house, it was about $16,000 to get in. And you're complaining about your property taxes now on that same house.
Yeah, and a single person, a dad working on his own, mom was staying at home, dad was a mechanic, he could support the whole family.
And the argument I'm making, before I get a bunch of hate emails, is just, look, you cannot look at the younger generation and just tell them you're wrong. You've got to take a leadership parental role and show them how to do it then. Mm-hmm. That's what you've got to do. Walking around just saying, well, you're all just wrong. This whole planet's going to hell in a handbasket. That's what your parents did.
That's right, yeah.
Leave it in the dust. Help these kids out then. Oh, that frustrates the heck out of me. If you're not willing to teach and you're not willing to learn, you shouldn't be able to complain. All right, we got another caller. Go ahead. You're on the Jackson Electric Open Lines.
Hello, is that me?
That's you.
Hey, I just got a couple comments on what you've been talking about. So one thing is, you're talking about these younger generation kids, how the millennial, and they don't understand and they can't believe it won't work. Well, all they have to do is go back through history, look at the history on socialism. That'll prove that for it. Next thing is, the Democrats, the woke people, the liberals voted a Democrat party in, so now they're getting what they voted for. So that's all on them also. And the next thing is, I've been hearing this stuff about furries in junior high school, which are kids supposedly dressing up as animals, and now they're talking about putting litter, dog litter, whatever, for them to go to the bathroom in. So I'm concerned.
What?
Yeah, there's.
That's what?
I
Where'd you hear this?
No,
Is this a school district meeting?
It is the truth, because I have a very close person that is a teacher, and they say it is actually going on at the junior high right now. So my point is, we don't allow animals in school. And the next thing is, if our administration is allowing that to happen, something needs to be done with our administration. And if the teachers and principals are allowing that to happen in their school, then something needs to be done with those principals and teachers also. There is no reason that anybody like that should be able to come in and be a distraction to all the other students that are there trying to learn something. So that's just kind of my rant today. So anyway,
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
The litter box thing started in Michigan, I believe. It was a.
Please tell me someone did not approve of this. That's insane. Okay, there's a line.
Right. It was a school board meeting in Michigan, and it was a concerned parent, I think, that actually kind of brought this thing up. The school board there said, no, this isn't going on in any of our schools. And I have yet to see any school district anywhere that says, yes, we're doing this.
Look, I know some of the administrators around here, guys. There's no way that they would allow that to happen. I mean, holy cow, come on. That's that's past the moon crazy.
Yeah.
And if you want to get mad at me for saying that, then get mad. That's past the moon crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of it happening anywhere around here or actually anywhere else in the country.
Okay, good.
But there's rumors about it everywhere.
Well, that's because social media gets a hold of something. Too many people start clicking on it because you're not going to a proper news source. Instead, you're taking one of these crazy... if you look up certain things... Now there's accusations that supposedly a PAC has found certain things about Bobart. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm not a fan of Bobart. I don't like her. She's way too right-wing extremist. But the fact of the matter is, until that's proven, she has every right to sue those people, in my opinion. You start spreading that kind of stuff around that without true evidence of that, without proving it, and I'm going to sue you. And she's got every right to do that. And that is immoral. It has zero integrity. And that is not something that you do. I don't care whose side you're on. Okay, that's garbage talk to do that to someone.
Yep.
And that goes for everyone. And I just that kind of news is supported by us, folks, and we're the ones who can put a stop to it. Stop falling for the clickbait. Stop sensationalizing this kind of stuff, and it'll cease. All right, this has been the Jackson Electric Open Lines on 930 KROE. 103.9 FM. Shared.
Call Jackson Electric and you'll see the light. Maybe it's as simple as adding an extra outlet. Maybe it's as detailed as